Tuesday night during the live stream, one of my subscribers in the chat mentioned the Samson option. And in today's video, we're going to discuss what exactly the Samson option is. Historically, biblically, we'll look back at its conception during the Six-Day War in 1967. And finally, we'll address the possible implications it could have as far as the current war going on right now in 2023 between Israel and Hamas. Now, in order to tell this story about Samson, we have to go back to the Old Testament, the book of Judges, and according to most biblical scholars, Samson ruled in Israel from about 1118 BC to 1078 BC. Now, there's many fantastic stories about his accomplishments, but we're going to focus in on his death in particular, which came at his own hands, but came at the great peril of the Philistines. Now, the clip that you're watching right now is from actually the 2018 theatrical release of the movie entitled Samson. And this is a pretty good representation of how the Bible describes Samson's ultimate demise. But at this point in the story, he is brought into the court of the high officials and the king of the Philistines, who were in fact mortal enemies of the Israelites. And in what some may call a final act of mercy, God temporarily gave him back his strength, and with that strength restored, he was able to push apart the pillars that were holding up the roof of the structure, which led to the collapse of the entire building, killing everyone inside, including Samson. Now, there's plenty of lessons you can take away from Samson's life story. First and foremost, be careful on how much information you divulge with your woman. But ultimately, I think it's a story about the desire for revenge, and when it's your time to go, taking as many of your enemies down as you can with you. Now, for the next phase of this story, we're going to move on to 1967, and this article from The Independent entitled, Last Secret of the 1967 War, Israel's Doomsday Plan for Nuclear Display. And this is written by William Broad and David Sanger back in June of 2017. It says, on the eve of the Arab-Israeli War 50 years ago this week, Israeli officials raced to assemble an atomic device and developed a plan to detonate it atop a mountain in the Sinai Peninsula as a warning to Egyptian and other Arab forces, according to interviews with a key organizer of the effort that were published last Monday. The secret contingency plan, called a Doomsday Operation by Itzhak Yaakov, the retired brigadier general who described it in the interviews, would have been invoked if Israel feared it was going to lose the 1967 conflict. The demonstration blast, Israeli officials believed, would intimidate Egypt and surrounding Arab states, Syria, Iraq, and Jordan, into backing off. Israel won the war so quickly that the atomic device was never moved to Sinai, but Yaakov's account, which sheds new light on the clash that shaped the contours of the modern Middle East conflict, reveals Israel's early consideration of how it might use its nuclear arsenal to preserve itself. The article continues, Israel has never acknowledged the existence of its nuclear arsenal in an effort to preserve nuclear ambiguity and forestall periodic calls for a nuclear-free Middle East. In 2001, Yaakov was arrested at age 75 on charges that he had imperiled the country's security by talking about their nuclear program to an Israeli reporter whose work was censored. At various moments, U.S. officials, including former President Jimmy Carter, long after he left office, have acknowledged the existence of the Israeli program, though they have never given details. Now, if the Israeli leadership had managed to pull this off and detonate this atomic device up on top of Mount Sinai, it would have been the first nuclear explosion used for military purposes since the U.S. attacks on Hiroshima and Nagasaki, which was 22 years prior. Back in 1991, American investigative journalist and Pulitzer Prize-winning political writer Seymour Hersh authored a book entitled Samson Option, Israel's Nuclear Arsenal and American Foreign Policy. In the preface of the book, he writes, "This is a book about how Israel became a nuclear power in secret. It also tells how that secret was shared, sanctioned, and at times willfully ignored by the top political and military officials of the United States since the Eisenhower years." And for those of you guys who've been following me for a while, know that I'm a big fan of Seymour Hersh. I've been following his work for a long time. He's one of the people I look up to in this field. He broke the story on the Nord Stream pipeline and how actually the United States was responsible for blowing it up. And some of the information in that book is truly astounding, what he was able to dig up and find out. Alright, so now I know the question is, Mass, where are you going with all this? What does the Samson option have to do with what's going on right now between Israel and Hamas, the entire Middle East in 2023?
Israeli troops launching what's being called the largest ground raid into northern Gaza since the war began. And moments ago, the IDF confirmed it eliminated 5 Hezbollah.
This is the definition on Wikipedia of the Samson Option, taken directly from Seymour Hersh's book. The Samson Option is the name that some military analysts and authors have given to Israel's deterrent strategy of massive retaliation with nuclear weapons as a quote-unquote last resort against a country whose military has invaded and or destroyed much of Israel. Commentators also have employed the term to refer to situations where non-nuclear, non-Israeli actors have threatened conventional weapons retaliation, such as Yasser Arafat. The name is in reference to the biblical Israelite judge Samson, who pushed apart the pillars of the Philistine temple, bringing down the roof and killing himself and thousands of Philistines who had captured him, crying out, "Let me die with the Philistines." Okay, so now that we have a proper definition, question becomes, what are the chances that Israel would resort to something like this if their backs were up against the wall and saw that there was no way to possibly win in the Middle East? In 2002, the Los Angeles Times published an opinion piece by Louisiana State University professor David Perlmutter, which the American Jewish author Ron Rosenbaum writes, goes so far as to justify a Samson Option approach. He said Israel has been building nuclear weapons for 30 years. The Jews understand what passive and powerless acceptance of doom has meant for them in the past, and they have insured against it. Masada was not an example to follow. It hurt the Romans not a whit. But Samson in Gaza? What would serve the Jew-hating world better in repayment for thousands of years of massacres but a nuclear winter? Or invite all those tut-tutting European statesmen and peace activists to join us in the ovens? For the first time in history, a people facing extermination, while the world either cackles or looks away, unlike the Armenians, Tibetans, World War II European Jews, or Rwandans, have the power to destroy the world. The ultimate justice. What are the chances that Israel, if it does find itself backed into a corner, the possibility of the elimination of the Jewish state or its people? I don't think anyone who's still alive right now or knows what happened back in the 30s and 40s is looking to have a repeat of that history. Whether or not Israel would send the entire world into a nuclear winter is probably a discussion we'll have to have for another day. What I will say is it's hard to contemplate global annihilation when in our very own backyard we have a massive crisis at our southern border, lawlessness in our inner cities, $40 trillion in debt, the housing market out of control, inflation at 40-year highs. But I'm hopeful that things will chill in the Middle East, and especially things will get easier on the innocents. And I pray for humanity overall to try to find an end to this conflict. Alright, this is probably a good place to wrap this video. Let me know down in the comments below, what do you guys think about this? Is this even a possibility? You think it's something Netanyahu is contemplating? I'm going to be checking the comments because I want to get some feedback and see what you guys say. I know there's been rumors that the ground invasion has been put on hold till Biden can get more forces to the Middle East. As of right now, things don't look good, but I am praying for the best. And as always, thank you for all the likes, the views, the comments. My new subscribers, my OGs, I appreciate each and every one of you. We are here to break the wheel. This is Ape Nation, I'm the Massalorian, and I'm out.